In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to fix half fisherman's rib when you need to drop down a column of stitches. I'm going to show you how to fix it on the right side for columns where you work the K1B and on the wrong side where you work everything as a knit stitch. So I've knit up a swatch in half fisherman's rib, and rather than the original sample that I showed you, I've used two colors going up every other row, just because I think it makes it easier to identify which strands of yarn we're picking up. So on the right side of the work, I've purposefully put two errors into the work, one here where you see a purl bump and a second one here where you see a purl bump. We're going to start with the right side facing and place a marker just below the purl bump that we see in our knit column of stitches. So I'm going to grab a locking marker, and rather than clipping right into the actual purl bump, we're going to clip into the leg of the stitch right below the purl bump. So it is the same stitch, it's still the same blue stitch, but it's just below the purl bump, and this avoids twisting or having any working yarn in front of the stitch we're trying to fix when we drop down to it. So now I'm going to work over in pattern to that column of stitches where we've got the mistake, and then I'll show you how to drop down and fix it. Okay, so I've worked over to the column where we've got the marked stitch, and we're going to simply drop that loop off of our needle, and we're going to pull our work down to the marker. It won't be able to unravel past the marker. Give that a little tug to get that stitch clear. So there we go. And what you want to do when you're unraveling is make sure that none of these strands of yarn are crossed on the way down. It'll just make picking up a lot easier. So now we're going to grab a crochet hook or a fix-it tool, and we're just going to put that marked stitch onto our fix-it tool. Make sure it's not twisted. And so the pattern for fixing the right side of half fisherman's rib, that I like to think of it anyway, is over two, under two, and pull it through. So the two bars that we're going over are the two that are around the stitch that is on our crochet hook. So we're going to go over those two, and then we're going to go under the next two and pull the top one through. Now that we've got the opposite stitch color on here, we've got the opposite bars, so we're going to go over those two that wrap around the stitch on our hook, under two, and pull the top one through. Over two, under two, pull the top one through. And you're going to repeat this all the way until you have one strand left at the top. Getting close. Over two, under, whoops, that's three. Over two, under two, pull the top one through. This is easier when you're actually looking at your work, not through a camera. All right, second last one, here we go. So pull up the top one and pull it through. So now we're at the top, and because we can go over these two, but we don't have two horizontal bars to go under, what we're going to do is go over those two and under this one, and just place the original stitch and the horizontal bar onto our left hand needle. That will mimic knitting into the stitch below, but because we've already got the bar on the needle with the stitch, we don't go into this stitch. We just knit these two together, and that's the equivalent of a knit one below. So now we're going to, because I said there was two errors, we're going to go ahead and identify that problem stitch in our work again. We're going to find that purl bump, and rather than clipping the marker into the purl bump, we're going to clip it to the leg right below the purl bump. It's still the same stitch, it's just the lower half of it. And now we're going to work across in pattern to that column of stitches before we drop down. We are again at the column of stitches where we have the problem. We've marked the leg of the stitch below the purl bump, so we're just going to drop down. making sure that none of those horizontal bars are staying crossed as we pull down to our marker. There we go. Just get that clear. And once again, we're going to grab our crochet hook or our fix-it tool and put it into the stitch, making sure the stitch is not twisted. We're going to go over the two that are around the stitch on our hook, under two, pull the top through, over two, under two, pull the top through. And we're going to repeat that all the way until we get to the top where there should be one horizontal bar, in this case in blue, at the top of our work. Over two, under two, pull it through, over two, under two, pull it through. Almost there. I probably didn't need to make those errors quite so far down in the work. All right, and when we get to the top and we can go over two, but we can't go under two, we're just gonna lift both the stitch that's on our needle and the single bar onto our left-hand needle and work those two together like a K2 tog, and that mimics working a K1B. So now I'm gonna work to the end of the row and turn to the wrong side and show you how to fix an error on the wrong side of your work. It is just a little bit different. All right, so here we are with the wrong side of the work facing us now. And the wrong side of the work, you work all knit stitches across. And I can see that I have an error in my work right here. There's a purl bump, which just means I knit on the right side when I should have worked a purl one stitch. So once again, we're gonna grab our locking stitch marker, but rather than putting it into the purl bump, oh boy, let's see if I can get this to focus. Sorry about that. Rather than putting this into the purl bump or the legs of the blue stitch below it, you're actually going to go into the upper of the green stitches. So if you think of the purl bump as the problem, the legs below it would be one row down and the top green stitch would be 2 rows down. That's sort of how I think about it. So it's not the offending purl bump or the leg below it, but one row below that where you clip your locking marker. So now what I'm going to do is knit over to this and show you how to pick up the stitches, because it is a little different than correcting stitches on the right side. So now that I've knit over to the column of stitches where I've marked my problem stitch, I'm going to do the same as the front and just pull the work down. And once again, as we unravel the work to that stitch marker, we're going to want to be conscientious of making sure that the bars between our stitches are not crossed. And I'll try, see how they try to stay twisted here? You want to make sure that they don't stay twisted. All right, I think we're down to that top green stitch. Just get that last blue one out of there. All right, that was harder than necessary. Okay, so just like before, we're going to make sure that none of these bars are twisted or crossed. There we go. You should have 2 of each all the way up. We're starting above your top stitch. So just like before, we're going to place this stitch on our fix-it tool or crochet hook. And unlike the right side where we had 2 bars wrapping our stitch that was on the crochet hook, when we're working on the wrong side, we just have 1. So the 1 green stitch wraps around the green stitch on the hook. We're going to start by going similarly. We're going to go under 2, pick up the top one and pull it through. But now, rather than going under 2 again, we're going to go under 1. So you're picking up the bar of the same color almost in the reverse order. So you pull the top one through first by going under 2 and pulling it through both. So you pull it under the bottom one and through the stitch on your crochet hook. And then you go under just the green one and pull it through. So you're creating that twist in your rows of strands because when you work a K1B on the right side, it slips the below bar above. I'm not sure that that's the right way to say that, but it seems like you should be able to pick them up just one by one, but you have to create a twist in them because the K1B adjusts their position. So I'll show you that one more time here before we get to the top. So you go under 2, pick up the top one and pull it through. Then you go under 1 of the same color and pull it through. Go under 2, pull the top one through, go under 1 and pull it through. Last time, go under 2, pull the top one through under both. Whoops. I'm going to undo that and show you that one last time because that didn't go the way that I expected it to. All right, so when you've got the 2 untwisted, you go under 2, pull the top one through, go under 1 and pull it through. And so now you're at the very top. There should be no unworked bars across the top. You can just place that stitch on your left-hand needle and continue working across the row. So I hope that helps you get your fisherman's rib fixed up and back in working order on the right side and the wrong side. Good luck and happy knitting!